Hi guys, welcome back. So last project we did, we folded our paper and we should end up with a paper that looks very similar to this with, or at least similar in the fact that you have 4 different patterns. So we have our 4 different patterns. These are gonna be the background of our image, so don't get attached to these. It's beautiful artwork, but we're gonna be gluing stuff onto it. Okay, so don't get attached to this. This is just gonna be the background of our piece that we're doing. If you guys remember looking at the image of Mr. Matisse, his patterns and the lady sitting with a vase of flowers, we're gonna add something onto it, okay? You're at least gonna want 1 piece of paper, if not multiple. And then I just pulled a bunch of spare pieces of paper that I have, or like scraps, and we'll do something with those in just a little bit. You're gonna want some glue. You could use stick glue or tape, whatever you have at a house that'll cause things to like stick together. Tape would work lovely. And then you're also gonna need some scissors, and we'll talk a little bit about scissor safety later. You may need a pencil or something to draw with if you're like me and you want to be able to erase if we accidentally mess up. Either way, a-okay. So what we're going to be doing today is, if you remember back to that painting of Mr. Matisse and the painting Mr. Matisse did with the lady, he had a lady right about there and a vase of flowers. So we're not gonna try and draw people just yet. We'll eventually get to do that and try and do it. But we're gonna try and draw our vase, just a fun vase for us to draw. Thinking about that, really what we're gonna use are just different lines and shapes. And let me grab this so you guys can just follow along. So a line is simply a dot, right? A dot that decides to go for a walk, okay? So a line is just a dot that goes for a walk. If it is a dot that decides to go up and down like that, it just turns into a squiggly line, right? All lines are a little bit different. They're not all gonna look the same. We have some vertical lines, we have horizontal lines, we have a diagonal line. Like I said, we had our wiggly line, we have zigzag lines, swirly lines. There's all different types of lines, and sometimes your line can even change from being super like thin and skinny like my blue one to turning your pencil and making a thick line. So sometimes our line will change even in the one strip that we have going. And then, let me erase some of this. Once we have drawn we have a line, sometimes those lines will go together. So like we have 3 lines, 2 diagonal and 1, and it ends up making like a triangle or a square or possibly a rectangle. So lines turn into shapes, okay? And so we'll use those shapes to make we'll use lines and shapes to make an image. And this is how we can draw pretty much anything, as long as we just kind of look at what the lines and the shapes are doing in the image. So you guys can grab a drawing utensil, and we're gonna get started. So the first thing that we can try and do is we're just gonna try and draw a simple, easy vase. So we're gonna take our paper. I'm gonna keep mine portrait. That's what I'm gonna do. And we are just gonna take it and we're gonna make a rectangle. Okay, we're just gonna make a rectangle. And with our rectangle, and then I am gonna decide what I want my vase to look like. So before I get started on doing anything else, I'm gonna look at my image of my pattern. I'm gonna think, how would I want this to stand out on this piece of paper here? What would I want it to look like? So I have a lot of bright colors over here, so I think I'm gonna start out by doing a darker color. One darker color that I may end up doing, or one thing I may end up doing is I may take like a darker color, I may go over the line that I want to draw my vase out of. So my simple vase is just gonna be a rectangle. I'm gonna take it, make sure I'm not drawing on my scissors, and go down. And this is gonna help me later when I'm trying to cut it out as well. But I want to, let's see, I think I want a bright blue vase. So I'm gonna go in, and I think I want part of it to be blue. I'm back to using oil pastels, but you guys can use whatever you have or whatever you want to use. I saw some of my friends use crayons. Crayons are easy peasy to use, right? I like oil pastels because I can kind of smear them with my fingers. And I help kind of hide some of that color. Okay, all right. And then I want do kind of a yellow thin line. And I'm just adding a different pattern onto it. You guys could make yours one whole color if you wanted. It is up to you. Miss Williams just decided I wanted to make mine kind of, just wanted to add some color to mine. And then the rest of it, I'm gonna do just like an earthy tone. So I'm just gonna go in. I want this just kind of to show a little wider. I don't necessarily want it too much. Okay, and then I'm just gonna go in if I want to, and I'm gonna add a little bit of, you can do this sometimes with crayons too. It may take a little bit more work because crayons aren't as waxy. But if you want to try and soften up some of your colors, you may want to go in and do that. Will make for some messy fingers, just a heads up. Okay, so I have my bright, beautiful blue streak going through it, and then my other two. So what I am gonna do next is I'm gonna take my scissors and I'm just gonna cut out my vase. Okay, just gonna cut it out. So while I'm cutting it out, you notice that I'm cutting away from myself. I'm not trying to cut anything else other than the paper that I'm cutting. We're cutting away from ourselves. And I'm making sure that my fingers aren't in my way. Cutting along the lines, trying to get as close to that line as I can. Sometimes even going over. That's okay, we're still just trying to figure it out. So we're just cutting. And eventually you're gonna have your square. Mine kind of looks very just kind of plain. I like that though. You could make your vase is gonna look a little different than mine probably. But so here's where I have to decide what I want to do next. I have to decide what pattern I want on top, if I want to do it this way. Since my rectangle is so big, so I can put stuff in it, I think I'm gonna do mine like this. So I'm covering up part of my background. That's okay, it's still there, it's just hiding in the background, right? So the next thing that we're gonna do is you're gonna take any sort of scrap pieces of paper that you like, and we're gonna do what's called a collage. So we've drawn our vase, we haven't glued it down yet, we're just imagining what it would look like, right? And paper that I have, I'm gonna take my green and just kind of color it. If you have green paper, awesome, that'll work perfectly. But what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be making a collage of our background drawing and the vase that we have. So, I have my green, knowing that these are probably gonna turn into flowers. The green's gonna work as my stems on my flowers, and I don't need them that tall probably, so I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna cut and kind of just cut in small little bits. It's okay if yours doesn't look perfectly. We're still just learning, so we're just trying to practice cutting our paper and making some collage strips. Okay. As I'm doing that, notice I'm trying to keep my fingers away from my scissors. If my strips aren't perfect, that's okay. They don't have to be. So I'm only probably gonna do 4 of these. I'm not gonna go crazy. I'm gonna do 4 so I can show you different things you can do. So I'm just laying mine out. I'm being very purposeful where I want things to be. This one I want a little smaller, so I'm gonna put it there. Okay. I'm gonna put it there. I've decided I want my vase kind of right here, so I know where I want it. And I'm gonna lay out where I'd want like my flowers to go. It doesn't matter if it's gonna look a little silly right now because it's all gonna change in a little bit. We'll turn that one a little. So I'll put my vase back on it and it's covered, right? I may need a couple more, but that's okay. And then using my other paper, I have some fun, silly paper over here that I'm gonna use. I'm gonna draw my shapes if I want them. So I'm gonna do kind of a circle. If you wanna get fancy, you could do a flower. We're practicing just kind of cutting and working on cutting, learning how to cut out stuff. If cutting is a bit too scary and you don't wanna do that, you could always just draw. You'd have to do it darker, but you could always just get some paper and draw it deeper. So I'm gonna put one flower there. I think some of this would be really pretty on it, so I'm gonna take one of these guys out, and I'm gonna draw on the back so I don't see it. So I don't see that line. I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna just cut around it. Okay, here we go. All right, I was gonna cut out this one. Big flowers may be a little hard because they're in those like crevices if they have petals. That's why I was sticking to just a circle on that one. But I wanted to show you guys what you can do. If you don't like how something looks, you can always try and shape it up a little. I just want mine to kind of give that idea of flowers, so I'm not too worried how it looks. It's okay if it's a little circular or a little strange looking. I think that's fun. Do this as, so remember I'm going back in, I'm drawing whatever I want. And it really is just using and making it's a lot of work, right? So you may just do 1 or 2 flowers coming out of your vase. You may just do 1 or 2. So, what I think I'm gonna do is I may just stick to doing just 3. So I'm gonna take 1 away, and then I think I'm gonna do one of these guys. And I think I'm just gonna draw another circle on the back, like I've been doing. So I can see it. You're cutting. And we're just gonna cut all of the pieces out we want right now. We're not doing anything else. We're just gonna cut out your pieces, okay? So that one I think is really pretty. And we need a simple background for that one. So I'll just do this green. Okay. Drawing a line so I can see how to cut it out. If you want to just try and cut your shapes out naturally, you can do that too. So we have our 3 flowers, but let me ask you, is any of it glued down yet? No, so we gotta now do the act of putting it onto our paper. So how I would start about doing that is I'd kind of leave things where they are, but I would start with this guy, or these guys, and I'm gonna show you how to do it with a glue stick and a bottle of glue. That way, for some of my friends that have either or, we cover everybody. So, if you have a glue stick, you just need to roll it up just a little bit over. You're not going too hard with it. I dropped my glue cap, oh well. You're gonna take it and you're just gonna cover it around, not too much. And then once you have glue on it, you're gonna put it down on your spot, right? And we're just gonna set that to the side and let it kind of dry. I'm gonna go ahead and do that with these, so I'm just gonna coat it, put it on the table if you need, coat it, and put it down, just like that. We'll set that off the paper. But at least now, this one was so big, I just put it on the paper itself and then put it down on it as well. So I just glued it on the blue and then pressed the other paper on it. So, we have the bigger parts together that we can easily just move and take care of. What we're gonna do next is we're gonna glue down our stripes, okay? So, think about where you want them. I'm gonna switch to using a glue gut or a bottle of, I'm gonna switch to using a bottle of glue. If you can do this project just using the glue stick. I just wanted to showcase another way of doing it. So I'm just doing a really thin line, nothing crazy. There's not a ton of glue. I'm gonna press it down on top of. So I know where I was going. I just put a thin line of glue. I'm not squeezing too hard, just a thin line where I wanna go. I was a little messy with that one. Luckily, it'll dry clear. So we're gonna take it and just push it down. Your fingers may get a little sticky, that's okay. It's gonna wash off. No worries, just don't touch anything else. Just keep your hands working on your art. If you needed to go wash your hands real quick, you easily could. Just pause the video. We're gonna take it and we have it glued down. So once we have those glued down, we then can glue down our bigger piece, our vase itself if you want. So what you would do with that is if you either or, what I would do is I would go kind of around the edge with my glue stick, go around the edges. You notice I'm not pushing down too hard, I'm going gentle with it because I don't need to go too hard with it. And then I would do one across, one across. So you're making an X and then going around the sides. That way, when you push it down, all your sides are gonna go down with it. okay? And now here's kind of the fun part. You get to decide where your flowers are probably gonna go. I like the idea, I'm gonna switch back to using my glue bottle. I like the idea of putting a flower here, so I'm gonna do a little line. Not too much, just enough. Push it down. Okay, and then this one's kind of sticking up, so I'm gonna put just a little bit of glue in there so it doesn't do anything else. So we're gonna push that down. And you could do this with any sort of fun paper. If you wanted to, if your background's light enough, you could have done this just drawing on top of it with other markers. All of it's fine. I'm gonna put just a little more on here and finish it up. So once you glue that down, we have created our piece, right? We don't have a woman in ours, but we still have a vase of flowers that are simple. And then we have our flowers in the background. You could do more flowers if you really like the act of cutting and practicing, or you could just do one. It is up to you. It's kind of your choice. I just did 3 so you guys could see a couple different ways. Yeah, I'm excited to see your guys' work.